Malam. Pertama sekali saya mengambil kesempatan ini untuk mengalu-alukan kehadiran tuan-tuan dan puan-puan ke satu majlis forum yang kita wujudkan untuk kita sama-sama menelaah ataupun melihat dalam peristiwa-peristiwa yang berlaku di seluruh dunia. Dan forum ini kita namakan BN Forum. Saya memulakan tradisi ini untuk kita keluar daripada hiruk pikuk perkara-perkara politik sepanjang masa, kerana saya ingin mewujudkan satu tradisi baru dalam kelompok masyarakat kita, supaya kita dapat memikirkan juga perkara-perkara yang lebih serius yang berada di hadapan kita, yang berada di sekeliling kita. And I would like to welcome some of our friends, including one of the prominent figure with us today, Brother Fuadi, who happened to be here. Fuadi is the son of a former foreign ministers of Thailand, Surin Pitsuwan. He's a graduate of one of the Ivy Leagues. Thank you, Fuadi, for joining us tonight, and also some of our members here. For the sake of our discussion tonight, I think I would like to have. You can have. Feel free. To converse. It can be in Bahasa, or it also can be in English. Because the very purpose of this kind of forum, because we want to convey knowledge and then to exchange ideas. So I don't want you to feel there is any kind of hindrance for you to communicate with us. All right. Saya pun bagi tahu dengan Profesor Johan and the rest of us here. Kita boleh bersuara menyampaikan, kerana isu dan tajuk yang ada di hadapan kita yang kita bincangkan ini adalah merupakan isu-isu yang penting. Jadi tuan-tuan dan puan-puan jangan rasa tersekat untuk menyampaikan pandangan. Feel free, kerana setiap daripada kita merasai ingin menyampaikan pandangan-pandangan. Dan saya ucapkan terima kasih kepada kehadiran tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang sangat membangga. Saya tidak menjangkakan bilangan yang begitu besar. This is normally we going to this kind of forums that will attract certain numbers of groups of people. But we can see tonight, actually, when we start something very interesting, that will then naturally attract people to come and to hear from our panelists, and of course they are prominent. I will introduce them shortly after this. Saya akan memperkenalkan mereka. Jadi Prof, kini tradisi kita, saya akan memulakan setiap, saya dah bagi tahu dengan tim kita, ada tim here consisting of our professors. Some of the professors, I bring them along just to help us set up some of the discussion. Jadi kita akan mulakan malam ni. Kita rasakan jangan rasa terhalang untuk menyampaikan pandangan-pandangan. Baik, malam ini kita ada tiga tokoh utama yang akan seorang lagi, Elena seorang lagi. Elena, how are you, Elena? Where are you right now? I was told you are in Jakarta. Are you in Jakarta?
Yeah, Datuk Sri. Kebetulan I'm in Jakarta today, and so I'm very happy to be with you virtually. I wish I could be with you in person, though.
Thank you, Elena. Terima kasih kerana menerima jemputan kita untuk baiklah, saya perkenalkan dulu, iaitu dari jauh kita perkenalkan Elena Nur. Elena Nur ni kalau kita berada di luar negara dalam hal-hal yang berkaitan dengan dasar-dasar luar, beliau hidupnya berada di luar negara, dan merupakan seorang yang sangat penting, anak Malaysia, dan beliau memberikan berada di luar negara, khususnya di US, memberikan pandangan-pandangan yang berkaitan dengan geopolitics. So terima kasih kerana beliau menerima jemputan saya pada malam itu, sama-sama menyampaikan, berkongsi pandangan beliau, Alina, ya. And I think I would also like to introduce yang ada di hadapan kita. Pertama, ini orang besar, bukan orang besar, dalam dunia akademik, ya. Kalau dalam dunia akademik, kalau siapa yang berada dalam dunia sains politik, kalau tak baca karya-karya Profesor Johan, maksudnya you cannot be a good political scientist, ya. So jadi ya, masing-masing membawa ada pandangan pemikiran beliau, ya. It is quite interesting to have Professor Johan to come here tonight untuk sama-sama dengan kita. Next is Professor Madia Dr. Ko Ying ni. Ini orang muda. So representing, I'm not sure you are representing a beta generation or alpha generation or Z generation. My generation is Z. My name is Zamri though. Well, this is also interesting because based on your background, Profesor Madia Ko mungkin boleh juga menyampaikan pandangan-pandangan beliau, ya. Dan akhir kali ialah di hujung sana, ini profesor kita ni, Profesor Dr. Azmi Hasan. Dia geospatial dan geopolitics punya expert, dan beliau seringkali muncul dalam TV bila membicarakan soal-soal berkaitan dengan politik dunia. Dan beliaulah antara orang yang seringkali dirujuk. Right, without further ado, can I just call upon Alina first, ya. Oleh kerana Alina berada jauh di Jakarta. Alina, can I give you 10 minutes or 10 or 15 minutes to begin with? And then we're going to have our second round, and after this maybe there will be some question from the floor. I will ask them to come forward, and then maybe they will ask you some of the questions. Then, right? Can I call upon you now to share with us your thoughts to the audience? For your information, we have ni malam ni dekat 200 ni ada. Dekat 200 lebih ni ada, ya. Jadi terima kasih audiens yang ada. Dipersilakan, Alina.
Terima kasih banyak-banyak Datuk. Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera to my fellow panelists and everybody else who's there. Thank you for spending your evening. I promise I won't take too much of your time. Thank you as well to Datuk Sri for having me from afar, and thank you for accommodating my virtual participation. So perhaps I'll just offer 3 thoughts for us to consider about President Trump's election and what it means for us in Malaysia as well as the world. The first is that this Trump administration is somewhat like the first Trump administration, but not exactly the same. And what I mean by that is that Trump number 2 has learned from Trump number 1. And so he has replaced his cabinet, or he has deliberately installed a cabinet that is loyal above all to him, rather than a cabinet that will challenge his ideas. And this he learned from his first administration. Kalau kita imbas kembali, we look at his secretaries of defense. He went through 2 secretaries of defense. He is now no longer on good terms with a number of his former colleagues in cabinet. And so what he has prized in this administration is loyalty above all other characteristics, including of merit, regardless of what we hear on TV about merit above diversity, equity or equality, and inclusion. You only have to look at, for example, his Secretary of Defense, who has had minimal military experience, Pete Hegseth, and has spent rather most of his time as a commentator, political commentator on a TV channel instead. I'll get back to what this means for us, tapi let me offer my second thought, that if we ever had illusions of the United States being what is projected to us now, I think and hope that we will have wiped off all those illusions. Because the US has always been very politically divided. And I think for the longest time, the world was under this impression that the US represented a certain image that it projected very well to the outside world, one of democracy and human rights and being this bright beacon on a hill. Of course, many of us knew that there was a dark undertone to that projection, but I think it's full mask off now. And this has always been the case, I would argue. You just have to talk to minority groups in the United States, even those who traditionally voted Democrat. Of course, there are more of them who are voting Republican and Trump Republican now, but this is the United States. It is both ugly and beautiful. But I think now, with the re-election of President Trump into office, the ugliness will become more of a norm. And I think we should quickly get used to that fact, whether we like it or not. Which brings me to my third and final point. And that is this unpredictability that characterizes President Trump's administration, particularly his unique style of leadership. What we're seeing now is a very raw image of the United States, and one that is increasingly being colored, tainted, if you will, by what we always took to be quite separate, and what was always sold to us as quite separate. And that is commercial enterprise, private enterprise being quite separate from the political and policy projection of the United States. This is what we frequently hear in Southeast Asia, that the United States is not like China. It doesn't get involved in commercial enterprises or decisions, and that the two are quite separate. They are not, and I think we see this quite clearly, particularly with what is now increasingly being referred to as a broligarchy. The almost consolidation, overlap rather, of the technology elite and the political elite. Elon Musk is the starkest example of this. His unelected presence in federal government has certainly shaken up things quite a lot. But I think even if you go back prior to President Trump's election, you'll see and understand that a lot of the political ideology of the tech elite and Silicon Valley, regardless of what we might have thought of them, actually leaned quite right, politically right, and actually converged quite nicely with a lot of the promises that President Trump made to the elections. So this idea that there is a separation of the two that we've often taken for granted in the region between the business and political elites is now increasingly becoming a grayer and grayer area. And this has obviously implications for us, not just in the semiconductor supply chain, where we're at the forefront potentially of trade restrictions, but also increasingly because we are anchoring our digital economic growth on anything technology related, we will have to take this more into account, because the commercial ideology is now seeping into the political ideology and vice versa. So we in Malaysia and Southeast Asia no longer have the luxury of considering the two quite separately. They are increasingly melding together, and that, I would posit to you, is a problem. I'm happy to take questions, criticisms, brickbats, but let me pause here for now. Thank you.
Terima kasih. apa yang disampaikan, terima kasih Elena ya. Apa yang disampaikan oleh Elena tadi ialah beliau melihat bagaimana dengan pemilihan Presiden Trump kali kedua ataupun Trump 2.0 ini sebenarnya bagi beliau tidak memeranjatkan kalau kita lihat dari segi ideologinya, tetapi kali ini beliau lebih memilih kepada barisan kabinet yang benar-benar setia kepadanya. Kerana pengalaman beliau yang pertama itu benar-benar mengajarnya. Baik, dari segi analisa ideologi yang ini yang sangat menarik untuk kita kupas, kerana Elena membawa kepada satu perspektif baru kepada kita, di mana commercial ideologies itu menjadi satu perkara yang lebih diberikan perhatian. Lantaran itulah, if I may, before I pass over to Professor Johan, dari segi apa yang kita lihat, istilah-istilah yang sebelum ini mungkin kita tak pernah dengar, kita tiba-tiba istilah-istilah itu muncul dan kita pun terpaksa cari dalam ChatGPT dan sebagainya, what the meaning of those words. Sebagai contoh, saya terbaca artikel tentang yang membicarakan tentang the rise of the plutocrats, plutocracy, ya, istilah ni yang baru ni. Mungkin orang kata what is it all about, tapi itulah yang berlaku kerana dia merupakan satu pendekatan di mana gulungan-gulungan bangsawan, korporat, istilah yang seringkali digunakan oleh Profesor Johan biasanya corporatism, if I'm not mistaken, ya, dan ini yang menyebabkan satu kumpulan kecil ini dia menguasai semuanya, ya. Dia bukan sangat tentang ideologi, tetapi dalam masa yang sama dia punya misi America First itu akan memberi impak yang besar kepada dunia, sama ada kepada dalam bidang ekonomi maupun kepada bidang politik, dan juga dia akan memberi impak kepada demokrasi, nasionalisme dan kapitalisme. Dan satu istilah yang disebutkan oleh Elena tadi ialah tentang oligarki. Ini juga samalah lebih kurang macam plutokrasi tadi, ya, dan ini antara, kalau dalam istilah dunia politik, istilah dan sains politik kita panggil the ideological contestation suddenly arise and the new terms come in, and di mana kita berhadapan dengan satu perkara ini, generasi muda yang ada di hadapan kita ini, tiba-tiba mereka ini dipaparkan dengan satu bentuk pemikiran baru dalam dunia politik pada hari ini. Oleh yang demikian, saya jemput Profesor Johan untuk memberikan gambaran keseluruhannya apa yang berlaku sebenarnya dengan kemunculan Trump ini. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak yang Datuk Sri. Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera semua. Izinkan saya menyampaikanlah presentation saya dalam bahasa Inggeris lah. Sebab saya ada PowerPoint. Dan PowerPoint itu semua ditulis dalam, dibuat dalam bahasa Inggeris lah. Ada ke ada PowerPoint? Ada. Ya, okey. Kalau boleh baca, boleh ke tak? I can look here. I have on my phone also. Okey, first slide. Boleh buka, ya. Boleh nampak ke tak? I can see from here. Oh, tapi audience tu tak boleh. Okey, tak apa. So, kalau tak nampak pun tak apa. I will just go through very briefly. Okay, yeah. So, anyway, what I want to show, following upon yang berbahagia's point about the large picture lah. Apa yang saya nak illustrate ialah the big picture of Trump's ascendancy as the President of America for the second time. Yeah. So I want to show how his presidency has affected us in the first Trump administration, Trump 1.0, as well as how it will affect us under Trump 2.0. Okay. So a lot of words up there. I would try to summarize. The basic argument in this first slide, actually, those are just the aims of the presentation, but can you move on to the next slide? Yang kedua, slide yang kedua. And another one, yeah. Next forward sikit. There's another one, right? Narrative. Before that ada satu lagi. Sebelum tu, okay. So the basic, development, I would say, within American politics is the idea that there is I'm using a very big academic word here, a hegemonic decline. In other words, a decline of American power, right? And that narrative has been within the American context as well as globally. So that narrative, I think, is the narrative or the idea that is pushing the kind of policies that America is having today. Why is Trump so aggressive vis-a-vis the rest of the world? Because he himself, right, is basically affected by this narrative of the American decline globally. Now, is this true or not? You see, the question is whether the idea of American decline is true. America is still the largest the economy in the whole world, the most powerful country in the world. If you compare the GDP of America and China, with China, it is still about $10 trillion more than China. I think it's something like 30 trillion versus 20 on the part of China. Jadi pendominasikan Amerika ataupun hegemony, that's what I use, Amerika itu masih ada, masih wujud sebagai satu faktor yang besar dalam politik dunia, pergolakan politik dunia. So that we start from that perspective. However, the Trump administration 1.0 and 2.0 is pushing the idea of make America great again. MAGA. Interesting word, sound like Melayu. but the idea behind that is that America is not great anymore, right? America is not great anymore, so we have to make America great. And Dr. Sri has also mentioned America first. America is already first, but make America first again, as it were, because there is a narrative of American decline. Maybe there is some truth to it. There is decline. I think if you look at the internal politics of America today, there's considerable economically, there are a lot of very poor people in America, homeless people and so on. There's that problem. But the overall decline is vis-a-vis the rest of the world. So I mean, if you look at American economic dominance in the world today, obviously there is a rise of China, all right? So the Trump administration 1.0 was essentially an attempt to contain the rise of China. And the current Trump 2.0, I think, if we can move the slides forward. Actually, I don't need the slide lah. Yeah, tapi I just talk lah. If you move forward, slide yang kedua, yang satu lagi. Belakang ni, depan ya. Yeah, the contestation. It is the contestation ataupun the rivalry, pergolakan. How do I say in Malay? Contestation, pergolakan politik dunia. Persaingan politik, global. Yeah, that's the factor that's pushing Trump to the kind of policies that's having. And of course, America is on the losing end, right? In terms of dominance in trade, in terms of geopolitical presence. If you look at Indo-Pacific, which is what I focus on in my presentation, America's influence, if not power, is declining, right? America is not able to do as much as it was able to do in the past. Mind you, America was involved in two major wars in the past after the First World War. Korean War, Vietnam War, right? And didn't do very well either, right? So that was already the first lesson that the American, some people call the American empire, if you want one, learned from that first two experiences. And beyond that, now we have the rise of China. China is China is not dominant in the sense of a rival in the sense of actual military power, because America is still very strong. Yeah? If you bandingkan American firepower, American capacity in terms of its capabilities on the sea, the naval forces, as well as in the air, and on the ground, they're still the strongest power in the world, right? Even Russia and China combined may not even be able to match up with America. But however, the actual influence of American in the region, in Indo-Pacific, has declined. And it's partly because, interestingly, because of the rise of other actors. And I would say not just China, there's also the rise of ASEAN, Southeast Asian countries. And that is actually a very important point. I want to stress that. The importance of ASEAN as a kind of middle force, if you like, a middle power. Even Malaysia, I've written about Malaysia as a middle power, or at least a country which is able to use middle powermanship or middle power statecraft to deal with problems in the region. So ASEAN has become a very important and dominant force. In that sense, America is also in a way constrained. ASEAN is still a very sort of friendly, partner, not a partner, a friendly group of countries vis-a-vis America, right? But however, that sort of blunts or reduces Americans' ability to prevail on questions of politics, and international politics, on geopolitics in the region. I think increasingly, of course, we don't have an economist among us, but we should also be talking about the economic, China is of course very important, but other countries have also become rivals or competitors vis-a-vis America. And so that has also led to an American decline in the economic sphere. So those factors, I think, are the ones that are pushing Trump to have this policy. Now can we go on to the next slide? I think I won't speak very much more. Yeah. The first Trump, this slide is all about the first Trump 1.1. The Indo-Pacific strategy was an attempt to contain the rise of China. And of course, in the first period of Trump, 2016 to 2020, he was trying to make use of the allies that America had, including ASEAN. So if you read that thing that I put up, Malaysia is thought to be a very friendly country. Of course, the rivals is very clear. China is known as a revisionist power. Russia is considered a revitalized, malign power. North Korea, of course, is a rogue state. And so the importance of having friendly states with America was part of the a free and open Indo-Pacific, sorry, not Indo-China. And of course, India was brought into the game through the Quad. And further to that, Australia under AUKUS, but actually that came under the Biden administration. It wasn't Trump. Okay, so the first Trump was a very directly an attempt to do that, right? So can we move on to the next slide? Next slide, boleh kan? Teruskan. This is Trump 2.2, much more destructive, much more aggressive, and it's happening, in a matter of months. As somebody pointed out, there is a mountain of executive orders that are on the, that Trump has actually issued, right? Of course, some of them are being challenged in court as basically unconstitutional. Long list of that one. We can have this discussion, but basically Trump is asserting again the idea of America first, and as Dato Sri has mentioned, I think what he's pushing for is a corporatist strategy. What is a corporatist strategy? A corporatist strategy is one which tries to unite internal groups into an ideology which pushes nationalism, extreme nationalism. We had it with Mussolini in the Second World War. We had it actually with Hitler as well in the Second War. That kind of ideology, extreme nationalism. So we are looking at a very, very dangerous and a very, very serious development in international politics. Because what Trump is doing with all of these policies, he's also disrupting the economic world order that was set up by America itself, or set up by nations in consort with America after the Second World War, after 1945. You know, all these multilateral institutions we have, including the UN, he can't care. He doesn't care a thing about the UN, right? Multilateral institutions, multilateral agendas, climate change, forget about it. He's not interested, right? He's already opted out second time of the Paris Agreement on climate change. And now he's actually basically setting aside international agreements on trade like WTO. Forget about it, because the most beautiful word for Trump today is tariffs. He's imposing tariff. Malaysia, watch out, it's coming. Because we have a trade surplus with the US. Any country yang ada trade surplus with Trump, he's going to impose a tariff on you. So of course China has been hit with something like 60%. Now the interesting one is BRICS. All right, BRICS is a very interesting counter organization, a third world South-South organization, I would call it, right? And Trump is going to impose 100% tariffs on all those countries. Malaysia is going to be a partner country of BRICS. Indonesia has already become a full member of BRICS. So Indonesia can be hit with the worst, the highest level of tariffs. So Trump is basically dismantling the economic world order that was underpinning our economic relations today. So I think that would be the most serious impact that Trump will have, along with the geopolitics in the present Trump administration for the next 4 years. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Profesor Johan yang telah memberi gambaran kepada kita secara keseluruhan, termasuk beliau memulakan pembincangan beliau tadi dengan menggunakan istilah hegemonik. Bagi pelajar-pelajar sains politik, bajet faham, tak faham saya gagalkan. we were lecturing before. So seperti yang kita tahu, theory of hegemony, this is by Habermas dan pengikut-pengikut yang lain, iaitu bagaimana sebuah kuasa besar sebenarnya dia boleh menguasai dunia dengan menggunakan segala kekuatan yang ada. Dan apa yang disebutkan, saya simpulkan secara mudahnya apa yang disebutkan oleh Profesor tadi ialah, kalau dulu kita melihat kuasa itu yang nak lihat sebagai empire, kuasa campur dengan ekonomi, dia menjadi satu empire yang besar. Dan Profesor menggambarkan kepada kita tadi, iaitu kita dapat melihat bagaimana kuasa mereka itu sebenarnya berada dalam keadaan apa yang disebutkan sebagai decline. Decline dalam banyak perspektif. Kalau kita lihat, sebenarnya salah satu daripada area decline-nya sebab dia tidak lagi dianggap sebagai the absolute global leaders of the world. Ya, maknanya dia bukan lagi menjadi pemimpin, satu-satunya pemimpin, kerana di luar sana sudah ada apa yang dipanggil sebagai the alternative leadership, ya, termasuklah China. Dan Profesor sebutkan juga tadi, jangan lupa dalam konteks kita di ASEAN, kita pun mempunyai kekuatan itu. Ialah waktu saya jadi Menteri Luar dulu, adalah sikit sebanyak saya dapat melihat kekuatan ASEAN, di mana kita mempunyai lebih daripada 600 juta. And this is the most peaceful region in the world for the last 30, almost 40 years. Yeah, almost 40 years. Yeah, for Adi, yeah, am I right? Because you are the expert of ASEAN. After this, I want to give you the floor. I want to say few words. Dan begitu juga disebutkan tadi, ya, saya sebut, dan bagaimana usaha-usaha dilakukan juga untuk memastikan supaya kuasa Amerika itu terus berada di mana-mana, termasuk juga dalam rantau kita, rantau ASEAN. Yang disebutkan oleh Profesor tadi, mereka memperkenalkan beberapa formula baru, strategi baru seperti Indo-Pacific Strategy yang memang dibahaskan di mana-mana pun bagi memastikan supaya mereka dapat menguasai. Tetapi apa yang berlaku dalam konteks kita ialah sebaliknya, kerana kita ni negara yang boleh bersahabat dengan semua orang, dan ini yang sangat membimbang. Tapi last kali apa yang disebutkan juga oleh Profesor ialah berkaitan dengan kebimbangan kita terhadap dasar-dasar Trump. Dasar dia terlalu melihat bagaimana untuk menjadikan America great again, ya, to make America great again, America first. Jadi apa pun dia kena memikirkan tentang dasar-dasar yang mungkin ada yang mengatakan ia akan menjadi dasar-dasar isolationist, ya, memberikan terlalu eksklusif kepada kepentingan mereka. Dan ini yang disebutkan oleh beliau, dan mungkin dia akan memberi kesan-kesan tersendiri termasuk dalam Malaysia. Macam Profesor sebut tadi, antara yang sangat disukai oleh Trump sekarang ni, dia sebab dia businessman, dia memikirkan tentang tarif, dan satu lagi Prof, sebenarnya tarif and tax cut. Ya, siapa yang dapat masuk, siapa nak menyaga, mari menyaga dalam Amerika, buka kilang di Amerika, bahasanya mudah gitulah. Dan dia akan jadi protectionist. Maknanya dia akan keluarkan barangan di dalam ni, dia akan bagi insentif kepada mereka yang datang untuk membuka kilangnya. Tetapi kalau kamu tak masuk, kamu masih lagi mengeluarkan barangan kamu di luar, nak masuk ke mereka, maka they will impose a certain tariff. Klasik case yang berlaku, dia bukan hanya, dan kita bukan hanya lihat dalam konteks China dengan Amerika, apa yang berlaku di negara jirannya, ya, yang dia bergaduh dengan Mexico, dia bergaduh dengan Canada, where they impose tariff 25% to Canadian products, and the next day the Prime Minister of Canada, dia pun okay, you impose 25%, saya pun impose 25%. Jadi itu yang berlaku sekarang ini. Dan yang akhir sekali sebelum saya jelaskan sikit, iaitu dalam konteks kita Malaysia, kita doakanlah supaya dia tidak mengenakan impos, sebab Malaysia ni negara bersahabat dengan semua. We are a trading nation. We don't create enemy. We are such a small countries. I know my composition is not being followed now, so I have to be careful with my statement. Though you can say anything you want, but as a minister responsible to my government, I have to be cautious of with my statement. Though. But itu yang disebutkan oleh Profesor tadi, ya. Baik. Mari kita dengar pula daripada Profesor Ku, Profesor Madia Ku, untuk menyampaikan pandangan beliau. Thank you. Silakan.
Terima kasih, Datuk Seri. Hi, salam semua. So I'm going to start with, I think I first know about Trump and learned about Trump. Kalau semua ada tonton The Apprentice. Ya? Yeah? So sebenarnya masa dia buat reality show Apprentice tu memang saya follow lah masa tu. Dan actually kalau you tengok balik video-video The Apprentice, cara dia, approach dia sebenarnya sebiji sama dengan dalam politik. Jadi maka dengan ini sekarang ni dunia semuanya letak the whole attention to Trump. Dan I think he is a very interesting man. You can't deny that. Erratic but interesting. And we also know that when we analyze the politics, the leader is really important in terms of how they drive the foreign policies and so forth. So actually masa Trump 2 tu, memang I buka YouTube, lepas tu I tengok balik. You are fired. That's his line. Yeah, you are fired. And I must say that when I watched The Apprentice, I do follow it because I think if you look at it from the business point of view, he was doing what the businessman is actually doing. But unfortunately, what causing the problem is that he's using his business approach into the politics. And that has become disruptions, basically. I think the disruptions comes from whereby when we talk about the world, there is a world order. Well, we can debate about what kind of world order, but what's very important that we cannot ignore is that there is a responsibility of being an international community, which Trump doesn't have. in which he has actually caused a lot of problems when it comes to this in terms of maintaining the peace and order of the world by being a member of the United Nations. I think that is something that we do have to look upon to. But I must say that Trump is not exclusive on its own, but just that in the previous two panels, we have heard that they talk a lot about American hegemonic, America being actually the driver of the normative influence. Yeah, so they are the norm entrepreneur actually in terms of democracy and human rights. I'm going to talk about that later because I'm actually a scholar on IR, International Relations and Human Rights, which has become, of course, obviously very challenging when you want to talk about human rights under Trump 2.0. But I must say that if we reflect back, not just the Trump 2.0, let's say we start by not the older histories, but if we start with Bush, yeah, the war on terrorism. And then later on we have Obama, which we have seen, we felt a lot more of the America during the Obama's time because of his very strong public policy. And then we move towards Trump 1.0, and then Biden's and Trump 2.0. But I must say that if you really look at the context of the Southeast Asia, the declining of the American power is not just exist recently, but it has been actually declining. And we can actually debate about Obama's policy in the Southeast Asia actually. While this, we can strongly feel the significance here, but we must say that how about championing of democracy and human rights around the world, that we have not seen strong evidence. So that kind of the myth, basically, if you come across, I bet all of you will know Noam Chomsky, one of the biggest critics when it comes to US foreign policy. His latest book on the myth of American idealism, written with Noam Chomsky together with Nathan Robinson, has basically saying that how US foreign policies have been really not towards the directions of democracy and human rights, but just that, as just now earlier on, I think Elena has mentioned that image of the United States. But if we study political science and IR, we all know that each country has our political culture and image. And that is the image that we portray to the world. But with the changes of the world order right now, while there are many critics about US foreign policies and how bad it is making it into the world, but on the more positive side, I think the world has changed. The world is no longer the same. While yes, Trump might learn from his Trump 1.0, but if we look at Southeast Asian context, we also learn the lesson from Trump 1.0. Not only he learned the Trump 1.0 as well. So I think with that kind of lens, if you look at just now, Pro Johan talk about BRICS and so forth, I think a lot of countries in the global south have already taken the steps preparing for the changings of the world order. And it is not just, and it comes within, if you look at during the Biden's time, yeah, he doesn't have a strong presence when it comes to ASEAN and Southeast Asia as well. So the powers of the United States definitely is declining. But just now, Dato Sri also have actually kind of summarized of how's the Trump's approach. But I'm going to describe Trump as is a bad Wi-Fi. I would say Trump as a bad Wi-Fi because, you know, we all need Wi-Fi, right? But when the Wi-Fi is unstable, I think that's what he's causing. He is giving us the unstable connection. Yeah? Sometimes he can be good with this country, sometimes he can be not good with another country. And that's what we face when we use our Wi-Fi. Yeah? It's very erratic. And the second is that the bad Wi-Fi is that he's interfering with everything as he wish. Because when we do not have a good Wi-Fi, it interferes with our work, our daily life and everything. Basically, he's disrupting everything. Yeah, he's interfering everything. And he also have this selective connectivity. Sometimes just now, I was lost actually in this building with some students. So everybody was following me because I'm in the panel. That assuming I know where is the venue, but I did not know where's the venue. And I was trying to call Aziz, but my Wi-Fi was really bad and I couldn't actually reach him. Yeah, but I think Trump also has the same approach. selective connectivity. Some mobile phones can work, but some mobile phones cannot work. But that is a very dangerous sign for me. That brings to the mind another point is the security risk that he actually imposed to the world as well. So I think with all of this is how I'm going to describe Trump. But we shouldn't forget that if we really want to put the gap of the 4 years, is that during the gap of not having the Trump, but he's always present there, is that we have witnessed the COVID-19, and then there comes the Ukraine war, and then there comes the Gaza crisis as well. But if we examine all these world crises, including the COVID-19, if you remember that he was saying that the COVID-19 was a fake news, right? Yeah? So he was sending those kind of narratives to the world. But we see how he execute his executive order. He has not learned, and he refused to learn actually. And that's the world that we are currently having. But I would say that we should also look at how the world has actually changed, especially in the global south, in expanding their alliances and the networking very expensively actually. So I think those are the things that I think we will see the solidarity from the global south in terms of facing this. While we also talk about tariffs and so forth, but I think including if you look at Malaysia and the ASEAN, they have actually diversified, and the intra-ASEAN trade will be really important. That will be something that I think we can discuss later when it comes to Malaysia as the ASEAN chair, and how's the Trump's administration's going to impose on that. Thank you.
Terima kasih Dr. Koh memberikan perspektif yang agak menarik juga, iaitu mengingatkan kita kepada program Trump. Saya dulu suka tengok juga yang ayat "You are fired", itu seronok itu. Dan waktu itu semua orang suka tengok program tu. Tiba-tiba sekarang ni orang dah tak apa suka dia betul-betul. Tapi apapun apa yang dijelaskan oleh Profesor Koh tadi, iaitu perspektif terhadap Trump ni dari segi dasar-dasar yang sebelum ini, kalau boleh saya perjelaskan sikit, iaitu yang menjadi satu yang sangat ideal kepada demokrasi, kepada pejuang-pejuang demokrasi, kebebasan dan sebagainya. Human right matters, ya. Dan nampaknya semua ideals yang pernah dijadikan sebagai satu landasan besar itu semakin hilang, ya, karena dasar-dasar yang langsung dia tak peduli orang dan sebagainya, kerana pendekatan baru yang digunakan oleh beliau. Itu masuklah yang disebutkan oleh beliau sebut, kita kena baca buku yang beliau sebutkan tadi, Chomsky. Itu peminat saya. I cannot, you know, whoever read that Chomsky, he's been ardent critics for policies, of foreign policy of America. Now he thinks he's 93, 94 years old, yeah? Masih lagi bercakap tentang soal-soal foreign policy yang tidak seimbang, kezaliman yang dilakukan kepada negara lain, pembunuhan-pembunuhan di luar negara dan sebagainya. Ini apa yang disebutkan oleh Chomsky. Dan apa yang Prof sebut tadi cukup menarik tentang konsep bad Wi-Fi. Ini I think antara I know we are living in the 5G sometime. Some area of course dia masih ada 3G, 4G lagi. Jadi dia ada selektif sikit, dan tapi yang paling penting ialah apa yang poin yang disampaikan oleh beliau ialah berkaitan dengan dunia yang sekarang ini sudah berubah, ya. Kenyataannya ada dapat, khususnya selepas post COVID itu sebenarnya menandakan satu dunia baru, sama ada dalam dunia, dalam ekonominya, dalam politiknya, dan termasuk perkara yang lain. Ini termasuklah krisis yang berlaku di hadapan kita. Kita tak pernah menjangkakan bahawa Ukraine akan berperang dengan Rusia, dan ramai orang tidak tahu bahawa Ukraine itu sebenarnya adalah pengeluar gandum nombor 1 dunia. Bayangkan, we never thought of, yeah, that we always we've been portrayed that the superpowers the global powers consist of these certain countries, Russia, America, China, and so on. But dari satu perspektif yang lain, ada negara-negara ini sebenarnya apabila berlakunya peperangan di satu negara, dia akan memberi impak yang sangat besar kepada ekonomi dunia. Dan kita tidak pernah menjangkakan, siapa pernah menjangkakan bahawa Ukraine itu sebenarnya perang itu telah memberi impak yang cukup besar kepada ekonomi dunia. Ekspor gandum, bayangkan. Kita boleh ingat gandum tu rupanya kesan gandum, hari-hari kita duk makan gandum, yang roti dan sebagainya, yang segala, dan itu beri impak yang cukup besar, ya. Itu ambil contoh lah, contoh yang kecil. Dan begitu juga dengan harga minyak dunia dan yang lain-lain lagi. Dan ini yang disebutkan, dan termasuklah Gaza. Kita sebagai contoh, kita ambil pendekatan Trump yang terkini. Siapa yang tengok tadi, malam tadi, ya, apabila Raja Abdullah pergi jumpa dengan Trump, Trump pun seolah-olah, saya tak mahulah kata dia perkenal Raja Abdullah kan, tapi he make an open statement that when the King Abdullah mentioned that we are going to take 2,000 dia panggil children, the kids yang sakit ni, yang kena ni apa semua. But Trump immediately says that thank you. He keep on repeating during the conversation and during the Q&A, saying that yes, thank you very much, King, because this is actually a good gesture from your side to receive, to open up to receive our 2,000 to begin with, and then we hope we'll be able to work further with countries like Jordan and Egypt in order to exonerate the people. I mean, to go, because to him, he look at that not because he wants to displace them. Apa yang dia tengok ialah kerana dia lihat di kawasan tepi pantai itu yang indah-indah. Dia kata boleh buat duit, boleh buat ni, bagi kehidupan yang baru. Dia ada pemikiran, dia kata, dia bagi argument, dia kata masyarakat di sana telah menderita, mereka dibunuh, kehidupan yang, dan sudah sampai masanya kita bangunkan tempat itu menjadi tempat-tempat yang baik, orang boleh kerja, orang boleh dan berniaga dan sebagainya. You can see, it's a very, orang dalam bahasa ekonomi, I'm economic grad, but also political scientist. That's my background. So dia panggil very utilitarian. Yeah, this is the istilah. Maknanya dia kira, bahasa mudahnya kita inilah, dia kira duit hari-hari. Berapa ni untung tak? Ini untung. That's how. Terima kasih, Professor Kwok, if I correctly, sum up your deliberation just now. Right. Now kita ada seorang lagi pakar kita, Profesor Azmi Hassan, untuk berkongsi pandangan beliau. Silakan.
Terima kasih, Datuk Seri. Bila saya upload poster ni dalam Facebook saya, yang Prof Azizuddin bagi, the most popular question is, why Datuk Seri Zamri?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he should be Tok Mat, our foreign minister.
No, I seek actually Tok Mat kebenaran to that me.
No, I think they don't understand the BN forum in this case. But in my reply, I said, Datuk Zamri is our former Menlu, former foreign minister. And when Zahid Hamidi changed the three portfolio, Datuk Alwi, I was not happy because I prefer Datuk Zamri is the foreign minister. Well, that's my preference. Not that I say because I'm in front of Datuk Zamri, but that's the case. Because Datuk Zamri gave the green light just now. You can say whatever you want. Similar to Biden or Trump gave a green light to Netanyahu. Come this Saturday, all hell will break loose. That is a green light, Datuk Zamri. But again, another question that I prop up in my Facebook is that about our former ambassador to US holding the placard MAGA. MAGA, or America First, is a detrimental to our security, to our economic. But Datuk Nazri said, I don't give a damn about it. I don't think that's correct. Because he, as an ambassador, should understand that MAGA is detrimental to our policy. We have known, we have seen what's happened right now. And another thing is that a question arises that who will replace Datuk Nazri Aziz? Because a lot of question, Prof. Johan, is that why the Prime Minister still cannot make a call to Trump. Prof. Bowo did it. Lawrence Wong did it. I think that's the general question that has been, circulating around. I can say this, Prof. Azizrin cannot say this, because he's still working. I'm already retired. And I cannot avoid, when I see Dato' Alwi, when I was the third year in UTM, I think Dato' Alwi was fifth year. At that time, the debate, there was a debate, university debate, Dato' Alwi and Tan Sri Anwar is conquering. There's no other face that won the debate at that time. He's my cikgu. We are in the same profession or the same tenure. But again, it is better that we have Trump as the president. Because, yes, Dr. Koo, he's very disruptive, but we can manipulate him if we do it right. Let me bring back in 2020, during the first Trump 1.0, March 2020 to be exact, at that particular time, we are so obsessed with Sheraton move. Meaning the prime ministership from Dr. Mahathir to Tan Sri Mahyudin at that time. We are so obsessed with that. But at the same time, people in Wisma Putra cannot sleep for a few weeks. Why? We nearly went to war with China because of the issue of West Capella, Petronas oil-rich ship. At that time, Trump was the president. He sent 2 warships. He said that in order to protect Malaysia from being bullied by China. But Trump is Trump. It's not that the case. He has an issue with President Xi Jinping. But Wisma Putra said, at the time, Tan Sri Mahyudin, I think Trump made a call to Tan Sri Mahyudin. That's another point. Trump will make a call to a leader when he has something. When he wants to milk something or he wants to have a credit. So he called Tan Sri Mahyudin and PMO put out a statement saying that Trump congratulate Tan Sri Mahyudin. I don't believe that. They talk about COVID-19. I also don't believe that. I think Trump asked Tan Sri Mahyudin, Tan Sri, Prime Minister, I sent 2 warships in order to protect Malaysia. So how about it? But Wisma Putra put out a statement, we are not to be leaning with China or we are not to be with United States at that time. And Trump was very upset at that time. That's case number 1, how we can manipulate Trump. It's easier. If Kamala Harris is the president, it is very, very difficult. Because how Kamala Harris work in diplomatic world is dia pulas tangan secara halus. Tapi Trump, dia very raw, very brutal. And we can expect what Trump will do. Another example, 2017, Tan Eng Hock, he's the CEO of Broadcom. He's a Malaysian. And in 2023, his bonus surpassed Elon Musk. So in 2017, Tan Eng Hock together with Trump in White House. Why Tan Eng Hock was given the privilege to talk in the White House with Trump at that time is that Tan Eng Hock announced that his company, headquarters in Singapore, will be moving to California. And he said that why he's moving is to say thank you to America for giving him scholarship. That he can that time when he was younger days, he studied in MIT. But the real reason why he moved his company is that Broadcom want to take over, merger another company based in US. So when a company based in US want to take over another company based in US, you don't have to go to Congress. So basically you can manipulate Trump because Trump loves puji-pujian. He loves credit. Remember during the night of election, the November 5th, he gave out a statement that he thanked you, Muslim leaders in Michigan, for supporting him. But basically, no, the Muslim leader did not support him, but the Prasan supported him. So, as I see it, it is better for Trump to be the president compared to Kamala Harris, which is more difficult for us to manipulate. Trump is, we can manipulate him. I remember that Janet Yellen, the Federal Reserve Chairman at that time, during his first tenure, Trump is so obsessed at that time, not tariff, he's so obsessed with trade surplus. Meaning that if US has a negative trade surplus, it's not good. And Janet Yellen said, trade surplus is good for America. Stupid, he said that. And Trump was the president at that time because he's so obsessed. And as Prof. Johan said, we have a trade surplus with the United States. I think it's better that we keep a low profile, under the radar. Don't get attention of Trump. Because anything we get attention of Trump, it will create trouble for us. So Datuk Seri, that's my first 10 minutes. Thank you.
Terima kasih, Dr. Azmi. Dr. Azmi bagi satu perspektif yang agak career diplomat punya kan, tak apa dia panggil. Dia analisis dia agak lebih bagus. Sekurang-kurangnya kita ada beberapa pandangan yang pelbagai untuk kita membuat analisa, termasuk dalam konteks kita sendiri. Dalam konteks Malaysia, salah satu benda yang dibangkitkan oleh Dr. Azmi tadi ialah tentang kemungkinan yang berlaku di kawasan kita akibat daripada dipanggil krisis ataupun kontes antara dua kuasa besar, China dan Amerika ini. Salah satunya ialah di Taiwan, yang keduanya ialah di South China Sea. Ingat tu ya. China Sea itu akan menjadi flashpoint at any time. That's why we are managing it. Being the expert here, we all knows how it's being monitored and maneuvered all the time. Baik, terima kasih pada pandangan menarik daripada Dr. Azmi. Dia kata lebih baik ada Trump daripada ada Kamala Harris. Saya tidak mau membuat kenyataan, sebab kalau saya buat kenyataan itu saya akan kata saya sokong Trump. Tapi saya nak tambah apa yang beliau sebutkan tadi, iaitu saya kejut seorang kawan saya yang dia orang hebat saya sebutkan, tak perlu saya ceritakan latar belakang beliau. Dia kata, if you really study the world affairs, especially in America, khususnya kalau you study tentang suasana yang berlaku dalam hubungan dunia, peristiwa-peristiwa yang berlaku ini, dan kepimpinan yang ada dalam di Amerika itu, dia kata semuanya mempunyai dia punya sejarah tersendiri. Siapa di kalangan mereka yang tidak meninggalkan sejarah-sejarah pembunuhan? Tapi dia kata at least kawan ni, dia kata dia fikir bisnes, dia tak fikir tentang perang. Dia fikir nak menjaga je, kat mana pun dia nak menjaga. Sebab tu ini dia kata, ini satu pandangan, tapi saya tidak mau memberikan secara konkret, kerana ada perspektif yang lain yang perlu kita lihat, sebagaimana yang tadi kita tak cakap tentang apa yang berlaku dan contoh yang saya cuba bangkitkan tadi yang di Gaza sekarang ini, bagaimana pendekatan baru yang sedang dilakukan. Baik, saya tidak perlu panjangkan lagi sebab saya nak bagi ruang kepada tuan-tuan dan puan-puan untuk memberikan. Alina, is still awake? Thank you, Alina. Baik, sebelum saya jemput tuan-tuan dan puan-puan untuk menyampaikan pandangan, you can boleh tanya soalan, boleh bagi pandangan, sebab ini forum ya, kita masing-masing nak dapatkan ilmu daripada sini. May I call upon Fuadi? Probably you can come forward just to share your thought on the current situations in America and its relations to ASEAN. Sila come over here, come. People want to see how handsome you are, and you want me to declare that you are still available? Dr. Fadi. Dr. Fadi is a graduate of Oxford, a son of our Tan Sri, a former foreign minister of Thailand, Surin Pitsuwan. Yeah, silakan.
Thank you. I am called Ko, so what I'm about to say is not so prepared, but I had time to think about this. I learned about this event because I was talking to Professor Ying Hui this morning, and then she told me about this event, and then I asked Dr. Sambri, who has been a good friend with my late father and my family for a long time, if I can also come. But I had to check whether it would be in Malay or English, because if it's totally in Malay, then I would not understand anyway. I was trained as a political scientist, international relations, and if this is off the record, I also write foreign policy platform for the opposition. In the last election, we actually won the election, but couldn't form the government. So I have some. It was deemed to be the foreign minister under but we couldn't form the government. So I have something to say about this, and it's quite important. This Trump issue is quite important, and I wrote something for Elena too. In hindsight, I may have written it with a stronger message, given what we saw. I finished the paper, but then I think Trump turned into a much bigger beast than what I thought he would have done. I have a few points to make. First, what is happening right now reminds me a lot and what we have seen before when the Chinese destroy the treasure fleet of Admiral Zheng He in the 15th century. This is one of the largest fleet in the world, and China was out exploring the world, right? But suddenly in the 15th century, the fleet were destroyed because the emperor was scared of free trade. And that marked the turn of when the Chinese start declining. And what I'm afraid is this may be what we are seeing in the US. It may be the end of the American-led world order as we know it. And I say this also because you don't see a lot of this effect in here, but you see a lot of it in other developing countries because Malaysia does not rely on USAID aid, but in Thailand we do. And this has affected a lot of CSO operating along the Thai-Myanmar borders. For example, the hospitals along the borders, the vaccine, the medicine were cut short, right? So people are starving and are lacking medicine because of this. And this is America's greatest soft power tool. And without this, right, America will have what I would call a credible commitment problem. It cannot order basic contract to people who are dying. And even if it come back in some form, why would CSO, why would this hospital take those aid again, knowing that it could be cut anytime? So this reputation, this foreign policy tool, as soft power tool, has been used for a long time and has allowed America to be where it is today. But it's being destroyed, and this reputation, I think, will be forever affected. If it cannot honor basic contract, it will not be able to come back to the same as it was before. But I'm not sure if the alternative would be the Chinese or the Russian-led world order either, right? I would caution seeing this as, now the US is declining, we should full on joining BRICS. So I'm quite happy that Indonesia is still a partner and not a full-on member yet. I feel like we need to rethink this, whether the alternative is China and Russia-led world order. And there's a case to be made because of this. The strength of the relation among the middle power, I think there is a case to be made for some kind of middle power pact among like-minded countries. ASEAN with Korea, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, the EU, I think this will be a high time to pursue something of Asia-Europe relations, something of stronger cooperation, because they are also suffering, they are also unsure. I think this is a case to be made, some form of non-aligned movement, but among the middle power with real leverage. I think and not really fully committing to the other side, which is the Chinese and the Russian-led world order, because I don't think they are also the hope either. So I think I would caution that. And third, it's also a question, in the case of Malaysia in particular, right? I think it's a question to the floor and to the panelists as well. Given Malaysia pro-Palestinian stance, and now what Elena has said about the convergence of business and tech and political elite, what would happen if Trump used this as part of his economic policy and strategy and start hurting Malaysia by leveraging this against the semiconductor supply chain that Malaysia has? In some sense, this is good for Malaysia because US has a lot of investment here, so they should be nicer. But if Netanyahu and Trump start getting along more and more, and Netanyahu tell Trump that he's not happy with Malaysia stance on pro-Palestinian, so the US should not buy semiconductors from America. In that sense, I think this poses very great risk to Malaysia, and I'm not sure if you guys have thought about how to deal with this issue yet, and whether if Trump leveraged semiconductor supply chain as a tool against Malaysia, will Malaysia stand on the Palestinian change or soften? I think that is the question I hope the floor can discuss, and the panelists. I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
For raising some important points, including on the issues of alternative visions. Dr. Fadi sebut tadi, ada beberapa perkara. A very interesting point yang dia bagi tahu tadi ialah tentang bagaimana sejarah lalu pada abad ke-15, armada Cheng Ho telah ditenggelamkan kerana di situ mereka melihat, China melihat bahawa akan berlaku free trade, kemungkinan akan berlaku the free movement, free trade dan sebagainya, dan untuk menyekat perkara itu daripada berlaku maka dia ditenggelam. This is a very interesting point. This is what also happening now dalam konteks apa yang berlaku di Amerika. Baik, itu satu. Tapi dia apa yang beliau sebutkan kepada kita tadi ialah bagaimana kuasa Amerika dari segi apa yang disebut sebagai soft power. Iaitu soft power ni, kita satu istilah yang digunakan, tak silap saya, anak-anak murid saya ada sini oleh Profesor Hannah Arun, tak silap. Oh no, Josephine, Josephine, it's right. So I panggil NYE. So he used the word soft power, di mana kita menggunakan cara-cara lain seperti education, bantuan perubatan dan sebagainya dalam kita menjalin hubungan dengan sesebuah negara. Ini satu istilah elok juga anak-anak muda ni sudah ada di sini to learn this concept of soft power. Dan beliau menyebutkan tadi bagaimana dia semakin hilang kekuatan itu. Yang selama ini memang dunia melihat antara the best donor kepada semua institusi besar dunia ialah Amerika. Tapi sekarang ini satu persatu dengan order dia buat tu, semakin dia tarik habis semua tu. US aid dan sebagainya. Saludin bagi sebut tadi is one of the very important, very significant. That actually it really impact many part of the world. Baik, termasuk dalam isu dan very interesting point he raises now, it's about tentang semicon dan Malaysia, untuk pengetahuan, antara pengeluar semicon antara yang terbesar di dunia selain pada Taiwan, Malaysia adalah antara yang terbesar dan kesan besar. Tapi walau bagaimanapun pengeluar itu adalah terdiri daripada syarikat-syarikat besar Amerika seperti Intel dan sebagainya. Jadi dalam hal ini saya percaya bahawa pihak Amerika, pihak kita di sini sentiasa mengadakan hubungan yang baik dan memastikan supaya trade yang berlaku di antara kedua-dua ini dapat berjalan dengan baik. Baik, saya bukakan, sila. Satu, lagi siapa lagi? Dua, lagi siapa? Sila, kita bagi dua dulu.
Subhanallah, cepatkan suara. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Datuk Zamri dan seluruh panel-panel yang tak dapat saya sebutkan nama, tapi tidak mengurangkan rasa hormat saya terhadap anda. Saya Cap Ataupun nama saya Kapten Afiq. Saya mewakili Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia UKM hari ini untuk mempertanyakan dua soalan, kalau boleh. Boleh Datuk? Boleh. Mungkin dari tadi daripada tadi kebanyakan semua panel saya tengok banyak berceritakan dan mempersoalkan tentang ekonomi dan juga politik. Tapi dua soalan saya mungkin akan menyentuh lebih kepada soal sosial dan moral. Soalan pertama saya, dalam keadaan sekarang dunia dan mungkin rakyat Amerika sendiri masih sedang bingung dan tertanya-tanya. Amerika sedang decline dari segi ekonomi dan sebagainya. Namun masih lagi berpendirian untuk meneruskan sumbangan persenjataan dan juga dana kepada Israel. Termasuklah dalam keadaan membeli hartanah di Gaza dan membangunkan, sedangkan banyak lagi state-state yang sedang mengalami poor seperti Mississippi, New Mexico, West Virginia. Kenapa dalam melakukan polisi American First itu tidak mengetengahkan kemajuan di dalam Amerika, ataupun sebenarnya agenda ini adalah untuk memberikan kemenangan ataupun menguntungkan pelobi-pelobi Trump ataupun deep state yang di belakang Trump. Soalan pertama. Soalan kedua saya adalah, Trump sebagai Presiden Amerika telah pun menolak mentah-mentah woke agenda ataupun bahasa mudahnya LGBTQ. Dan pada hari ini kita tengok banyak dunia, termasuk negara-negara dunia, termasuk dalam keadaan sukan FIFA, sukan basketball dan sebagainya, telah pun menolak woke agenda. Namun di Malaysia ini, disebabkan kita punya forum ini bertajuk Dasar Trump dan Impaknya kepada dunia termasuk Malaysia, masih lagi ada gerakan-gerakan LGBT yang sedang diusahakan. Adakah keadaan Trump menolak woke agenda ini juga akan mempengaruhi LGBT, pergerakan LGBT di Malaysia? Dua soalan saja. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum.
Terima kasih. Ada tu soalan. First, Cap is a very famous, they call him Cap. I remember the guy when I came to UKM some time ago. He came out to the stage to meet me and to embrace me. But on the question, question on American continue his moral obligations. It seems to show the paradox of American policy, where you are suffering, at home, but at the same time, you are trying to acquire, to solve the problems of the world, out there, including the Gaza's land, trying to acquire that land. And the second point he raised about LGBT issues. So some people they give thumb up to Trump for making very brave decisions on LGBTs, but there are some countries they continue. So that's a question basically he raised. But can I have one more question before we go to the panel to respond to that? Soalan tadi yang tanya. Okey. Mari sini depan sikit ni. Panel boleh nampak muka.
Bismillah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Saya Faiz dari UMNO siswa UPM. So maybe just one big question. Kalau kita bercakap tentang Trump, kita memang tak akan pernah lari dengan Madman theory. We have few figure before, Richard Nixon and Vladimir Putin as well. Dan untuk Trump sekali lah. But maybe a bit from Prof Azmi tadi. Prof Azmi cakap, because of the Madman theory, the simple principle of it is the unpredictable response. But Prof Azmi kata it's about, sebenarnya Trump ni kita dah boleh agak respon dia apa dengan trait behavior yang dia ada, which means dia suka minta pujian, suka perasan and so on. So is it true that Donald Trump is a madman macam yang selalu orang-orang gelar dia, or it just a big fraction of it? Itu je. Sekian, terima kasih.
It's a very interesting question. I don't have to deliberate further. Alina, you want to respond to those three questions first? Silakan. You dengar soalan tadi ya?
Ya, ya.
Okay.
Terima kasih, Putri. Terima kasih untuk soalan-soalan tadi. Saya akan cuba ulaskan and combine my answers for all the questions. Fuadi, in response to your question about tech, I think there's a longer conversation to be had here, and we in Southeast Asia should really peel the onion back a little to understand the implications of US policy in general, not just from Trump, about what the policy direction means for us in Southeast Asia. And I will try to summarize it this way. If you look at the statements coming out of the tech CEOs, who even prior to Trump were already very clear that their first order of business is to make America great. Their first order of business is in fact America first. You go back to Eric Schmidt a number of years ago, he wrote a foreign affairs article or essay, basically summarizing that it is the obligation of tech companies like Google, Microsoft, now OpenAI, to advance American interests across the tech stack. So whether it's chips, atau AI, atau quantum that's to come, America must retain dominance. And this has second, third order effects for us in Southeast Asia that are building our economies, our futures on digitalization. Because if we're not careful, we're going to sleepwalk into an agenda that we're not clearly aware of. And so, Fadi, I kind of differ slightly from your opinion. I don't know that the solution lies with other Western countries or European ones. I think it depends on the issues and the interests. Because like-minded doesn't mean like-minded across all issues. So for example, on moral issues, South Africa has shown remarkable moral and ethical leadership in bringing Israel to the ICJ. And I think on those issues of international law, of the principles that we as a small nation, Malaysia, as well as other nations in Southeast Asia adhere to, we need to be joining forces with countries like South Africa. And I think we need to look at other African nations that are having these really interesting conversations about tech policy, for example. My bias is on tech policy because that's the area I work on most. We need to look at indigenous communities in Aotearoa or New Zealand because they are showing the way on data governance that is different from the mainstream conversations that are being had. But at the same time, as we're talking, there's an AI summit going on in Europe, in Paris, and JD Vance's speech there, one of the first things he said at the AI summit was, I'm not here to talk about safety. I'm here to talk about opportunity. Opportunity for who? For the US, not necessarily for the rest of the world. And so, although there are criticisms about Europe being, over-regulating in terms of AI and other tech issues, I think on some of those areas there are convergences with some European countries, not all. Now, on social issues, memang betul, because Trump's whole pitch to the American people was, we're going to make America great, and we're going to bring business back home, we're going to reshore, so that we can concentrate on the domestic population. Tapi at the basis of it is this agenda. If you look at his policies very closely, there's a class issue here. Siapa yang akan mendapat paling banyak manfaat? It's not the coal miners in West Virginia. It's people who are closest to him. It's his circle. It's essentially a class issue that is disguised as all sorts of other issues, whether ethnic or international issues. And I would just caution against using the word woke, pasal I think we need to understand the root of this word. Woke is an African-American term that was meant to reclaim their agency and representation in American cultural politics. it originated in 1930s. Tapi sekarang dah appropriated, as people say, by the American right and by the right-leaning agenda. So that it means something that was not in its original form. It means something bad, and it's not. It is actually about social justice. It's about being awake to social oppression. And it's not necessarily focused on just LGBT stuff and all that. I'm not going to comment on the LGBT issue. Tapi I hope I've answered most of the questions, and apologies if I haven't.
Terima kasih, Lina. Terima kasih, Lina. It is very interesting point she raised just now on the term woke. I've been searching also for the same thing because this is not the term that we are familiar with. Tapi itu yang disebutkan oleh Alina tadi, as she rightly mentioned. Jadi woke culture dan macam-macam lah. Ya, istilah-istilah tu kita kena faham. Tapi anyway, Captain raised raised quite legitimate questions because he wants to know further tentang soalan itu. Can I pass over to any one of you who want to respond to those two questions? Three questions in there.
Yeah, Cap. Where are you, Cap? Have you heard about Stormy Daniels? Do you know who is Stormy Daniels? Salahuddin, no, I think. Stormy Daniels. You're too old for it. You know, the weird thing about the Americans is that Stormy Daniels is an adult actress. Trump has an affair with Stormy Daniels. But his base, Christian evangelical, don't care about it. Just don't care about it. I think when I heard during the campaign period talking, when a reporter asked Kamala Harris, and the same question was asked to Trump, I felt attracted to Trump because he's so confident. Even though, to answer the question from UPN just now, he is very sombrono. Yes, he is very sombrono. You know what, Dr. Ku, sombrono? You can find out. It's okay. When he mentioned Saturday 12 p.m., all hostages must be released, when I saw the press conference, as if the date, he just picked up from the thin air, without any strategy. That's sombrono. And his people, his advisors need to, to handle this particular thing. I think that's how Trump. And talking about Dr. Wadi just now, talking about Malaysia electronic products, whether we will mellow down on our support to Palestine, I don't think so we will mellow down. 10 of our companies based in Malaysia has been sanctioned by United States because selling electronic products to Iran and also to Russia. And also, more recently, we have been put in under Tier 2 that in order for us to import AI chips from US, it's going to be more difficult. And we want to be a data center. So I think that's how, it is very difficult to handle Trump, but I'm positive about it. And I'm sure if Kamala Harris is the president right now, there won't be any forum talking about the president of US because it's going to be very boring. Nothing substantive. But again, I'm confident we have gone through Trump 1.0. I think we can go through Trump 2.0, but we need to be more strategic in handling Trump in this case.
Okay. Siapa yang bangkitkan madman theory tadi? Faiz kan? Faiz. Now, in fact, I think he's not a madman at all. He's a bit erratic, bad Wi-Fi, somewhat unpredictable in terms of everyday affairs, but in terms of his direction, maybe Dr. Asmi will agree with me, in terms of his kind of politics, his kind of policies, it's very clear. Yes, he has an agenda. The agenda is very clear. So the agenda is, I already used the word corporatist, but if you want to use another word, maybe his agenda is clearly to put America first is one, but at the same time, I think he wants business. I think the business interests for in that corporatist sense, that he wants to make business, combine it with labor also. So it's very interesting. Like people on the left, some people on the left may actually like it because he's especially in the U.S., because I think he is engaging the working class in the U.S. In fact, I would probably say that he won most of the votes from the middle class from coming into power. So that connectivity between business and working people is very strong, and that is part of the corporatist philosophy. So, not philosophy, I don't think it's philosophy, ideology. Yeah, so that's one. And actually tackling also Fuadi's question about, middle power, I agree with you that the alternative to a non-American hegemonic system is not necessarily a nice one or a good one. For example, if, I'm sorry to introduce IR theory here, but in IR theory, there's the notion that global order is underpinned or basically, what other word can I say, upheld by one major superpower. This has happened, more or less, right, since the Second World War. Now, is there another major superpower that is there that can underpin an economic system, let's say, that we are having, that we have today? Apparently, there's none. So we are going to go into a period, I think, where we will have not just instability, but we'll have multipolarity. There'll be a lot of different powers contesting. So the political contestation on the globe is a tough one. It will be a very, very serious contestation. So if this thing continues, American decline, I suppose, will continue in that sense. I think the role of middle powers, that one, I agree absolutely you. The role of middle groups and middle powers are very important. So a group like ASEAN must definitely find the correct partners, the correct groups to work with. The EU is not a bad option, for sure. Yeah. And I think Global South is not a bad option. But as of now, the Global South, I think Fuadi is worried that it is basically being driven by Russia and China. So is that a good alternative? But sometimes we have to work with whatever there is. So I would call for a multi-level, multi-polar approach to global order in the face of American kind of disruption or Trump disruptions of the global order today.
Terima kasih. Sila, Pak.
I'm just gonna add on to, I think earlier on I was mentioning that Trump is exclusive because we all learned about American hegemonies and so forth, and there was one point of time that we all call America as superpower, and then the polarity has changed. And I think if you look closer to our own region, we also have Trump. For example, if you look at Duterte. So in my class, I always look at Duterte's foreign policy, and if you examine Duterte himself, he's just like another Trump. He's also very erratic, and the way of his approach, well, it is not from the business point of view, but how he actually conduct his foreign policy is very similar to Trump. So Trump is not exclusive, but of course, America is a huge country. I would prefer to use the term strongman politics. That for me is more dangerous, as we can witness nowadays in our world. And I know there's a group of huge group of big students here, everybody's here, and I must say that it has become very challenging to actually teach politics, IR and human rights nowadays, because what the young people witness are all the strongman politics, and because the decline of the democracy, and it's very difficult to say that democracy and human rights and also the role of maintaining the peace and order is very important. So I think combining all the two questions is really, and also related to morality. I think we talk about political philosophy, we talk about politicians should have morale, but we can see not only with Trump, but we can see a lot of politicians when it comes to morality. I think this is a contentious issue really, and the integrity of the politicians. So with this, I think what we should actually do and move forward is that the role of America has declined. And if we continue to actually put so much focus on the world seems like belongs to Trump, while yes, we can't deny of his influence towards the world, but I think it is really high time for us to look at how Trump's, when he wants to use the norm as norm externalizer, as something that he likes and he wants to push it to the others, and there should be resistance from the world in terms of how he is pushing that, including what has been raised about LGBTs and all. Because in the end of the day, I think the notions of human rights, humanity, no discrimination should be there, and this is how we actually learn from our World War II and also the post-Cold War, and we should not ever actually forget about that. So I think the narratives and the discussions of Trump's influence towards the world and different parts of the region should really be tweaked a little bit, so that we can also actually to increase the attention to how the other emerging powers influence going to impact on Trump as well. I think we have to look at it from the other side rather than keep looking at how Trump is going to impact the whole world. With that, hopefully we can also be part of the actors in changing the world order as well. Thank you.
Terima kasih Dr. Koh atas jawapan-jawapan yang disampaikan. Ada soalan lagi tak? Okey, kita bagi ni, kita kumpul sekejap. Itu kita anggap. Lepas tu kita bagi kepada seorang kepada panel kita untuk menjawab soalan-soalan itu, dan seterusnya kita, saya tak nak keep you too long, itu boring, because the next one you all tak nak datang dah. Baik, silakan kenalkan diri.
Cuan suara. Assalamualaikum, selamat malam saya ucapkan kepada semua. Terima kasih Dr. Zamri dan ahli panelis. Saya Muhammad Syahir daripada Universiti Politeknik Malaysia. Saya ada dua soalan yang ingin tanyakan kepada panelis. Soalan pertama, bagaimana dasar America First yang diperkenalkan oleh Trump mempengaruhi hubungan Amerika Syarikat dengan sekutu tradisionalnya seperti NATO dan Kesatuan Eropah, dan apa kesannya juga kepada Asian, especially Sea region itu sendiri. Soalan yang kedua yang saya tertarik dengan forum hari ini yang menyentuh tentang BRICS. Jadi saya ingin tanya juga melibatkan BRICS, bagaimana perang perdagangan antara Amerika dan China member memberikan impak kepada ekonomi negara-negara BRICS, terutamanya dalam aspek sosiopolitik dan perdagangan di dunia. And as we speaking in this forum, baru-baru ini Malaysia juga telah menyertai BRICS sebagai rakan BRICS. Jadi apa impaknya kepada sosiopolitik dan ekonomi Malaysia itu sendiri?
Okay, there's two questions. One is on BRICS. The other one is the US-China rivalries and the impact on our regions in particular and then the world. Saudara Budiman, silakan.
Malaysia yang lebih perlukan Trump atau Trump yang lebih perlukan Malaysia?
Okay.
Satu.
So soalannya, first question, Malaysia wants Trump or Trump wants Malaysia?
Ya. Nombor dua, apa dasar luar pengubahsuaian kita, dasar luar negara dalam keadaan nak menjalin hubungan dengan Trump ini? Itu
okay. Nombor dua ialah tentang what is the Malaysian adjustment, the foreign policy adjustment to the new realities. Can let us take the third question. Sharifah, you are the professors of political science. So make sure you ask a real good question.
Yeah, I would just like to ask. No pressure. I just would like to ask. Saya nak tanya futurist question sikit. Dalam masa sampai 2030, what can be the worst case scenario and the best case scenario for economy, security and also for Malaysia? So within this 5 years, and apa yang kita perlu buat sebagai sebuah negara untuk memastikan kita mendapat manfaat, bukannya sebaliknya. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a professorial question. Next one, ada lagi satu. Ada anyone from this side? Siapa lagi? Adik tu? Tak ada okay. Please.
Okey, saya Karono Abirosli, saya dari GPMS Wilayah dan juga seorang ahli Dewan Muda Johor. Okey, soalan saya, semua orang tahu tentang peranan Elon Musk dalam membantu kemenangan Donald Trump dalam pemilihan presiden kali kedua. Elon Musk ni seorang plutokrasi yang juga disebut di awal tadi, dan juga memiliki suatu platform yang besar iaitu X yang dulu dikenali sebagai Twitter, dan beliau juga menggunakan platform sendiri untuk membuat ciapan terhadap melakukan domestic political intervention kepada negara Jerman dan juga kepada British. Dan saya nak tanya, apakah peranan Malaysia dalam navigating this emerging non-state actors dalam merencana geopolitical tension pada era ini.
Thank you for raising. He is using the right term. Dia berkata non-state actor, orang seperti Elon Musk dan sebagainya. Baik. Professor, there's another professor.
Thank you, Datuk Sri. I am not trying to ask question, just to help to clear the air for our eager Mr. Cap,
Mr. Cap,
right? Not to intervene or to try to hijack some of the knowledge, just for you to have a quick look, Cap. Nanti buka masuk Google, cari Strategic Enhancement Cooperation Act. Right. So this is a binding document that US must be responsible for the state of Israel. And QME, Qualitative Military Aid. Then you get to know the real answer reason. No matter who is the president of US, there is a binding document by US Congress, a binded act that US have to take care of Israel. Alright, in any count and any part of that. Terutama isu keselamatan, anything on security, anything on that. So that's what explains on his question. Alright.
Thank you.
Just for the panel, just a quick question. So we are looking into like what Professor Maya Dr. Ku mentioned, that is Duterte that being the successor is Bongbong Marcos. So are we looking into the next shift of ASEAN actually? Will be ASEAN looking to be more aggressive in its non-intervention policy? Are we looking into a new shift of ASEAN way of doing things? Because the concept of North and South have been quite for some times, and ASEAN always just become a follower of the legacy of other regions or blocks of power. NATO use. So is this a hard time for ASEAN to move? Is this a right time for the ASEAN to shift towards more aggressive policy? We don't even have our intercontinental ballistic missile. We don't have our own vaccines under the CDC. So I think this is also one of the quick reasons whether they be much more leader like Trump for ASEAN or ASEAN will stick towards its non-intervention diplomatic process. All right.
Probably I change a bit the words aggressive to assertive. Okay. Saya ada lagi sebelum saya nak bagi terus boleh Profesor panel kita terus conclude terus ya. Ada pandangan-pandangan lain, soalan-soalan yang tak ada. Kalau tak ada, saya silakan dulu. Alina, you want to that you can conclude as well because you are far away from us. Jadi saya berikan pada Alina dulu. Silakan.
Terima kasih Datuk Sri. I don't know kalau ni privilege atau curse of being distant.
No, you are not. You are so special to us tonight.
Terima kasih banyak-banyak. Okey, minta maaf kalau saya tak dapat jawab semua soalan pasal tak jelas some of the questions ya.
Yeah.
Tapi on the impact of America First atas kawan-kawan Amerika Syarikat, particularly NATO and the EU, I think we have to only look at what has been going on with Mexico and Canada to realize that even the closest allies of the United States of America under Trump can be hit very hard. Kalau kita rewind balik to Trump administration, the first Trump administration, if we recall, President Trump actually called the EU an enemy. And that was a shocker masa tu, pasal we didn't have prior experience of Trump. But I think that set the tone for his next few years of governance and now in his second term. So if his close friends can be treated that way, apatah lagi those that are not as close to the US as its immediate neighbors. That's not to say, as Professor Azmi mentioned, that he can be, I don't want to use the word manipulated, but he can be charmed into going in a different direction. Certainly a deal is always to be made with a businessman like him. So even China yang dikenakan tarif tinggi-tinggi 20%, there is a deal to be made if he feels, whether perceived or real, ada manfaatnya kepada Amerika Syarikat. Now on BRICS, so I personally think it's a good thing that countries in Southeast Asia are looking towards BRICS as an alternative and additional arrangement for what I call strategic diversification. And I think it's needed because there may be this de facto perception that BRICS is led by Russia and China, but that doesn't mean that we don't have agency when we engage with BRICS. And I think this is an opportunity for us to do so. Indonesia has said BRICS is a platform for them to source alternative areas of funding as well as technology transfer. But I think we have to be very careful about the historical arc of this technology transfer. Even if we look at India, India buys a lot of its equipment from Israel and a lot of other countries in the world in general have premised their defense, military, security procurement on very oppressive architectures of defense procurement. We look at surveillance mechanisms, we look at things like what we're sold as precision equipment. When we think about technology transfer, we have to keep those things in mind. Why are certain technologies efficient? Why are they precise? Why are they so effective? It's because they've been tested on actual populations. And I think we should be very aware of this fact that we're looking at alternative sources of technology transfer, innovation, or funding. We need to be very aware of that moral and ethical base of what we're turning towards as an alternative. Which brings me to my final answer. Maaf, I know that I haven't got to all the questions, but I'm cognizant of time. So, Dr. Sri, I mentioned tadi bukan oligarchy, tapi broligarchy. So the idea that the Silicon Valley bros have now gone into bed under the sheets with the political elite in Washington. So the bros and the oligarchy, the political oligarchy, they're all coming together. Jadi broligarchy. And so Elon Musk is a classic example of this, as mentioned. Again, I just want to caution, kita yang kat Southeast Asia ni, Asia Tenggara, we are vying for big tech investment. Whether it's Starlink, atau Microsoft, atau Google, again, we have to be very aware of what the ideological fundamentals of big tech are. Tech is not neutral, and I think we have a very good basis of that from the rhetoric and policies that are emanating from some of these tech companies. And they're very clear that their bottom line is not only financial, but it's also ideological.
Thank you. Thank you, Alina. Can I pass now to Dr. Azmi first? That's coming from that next.
Okay.
Finalist.
No, Datuk Sri, I will answer Datuk Budi. He's my mentor. No, Datuk Budi.
It's not your mentee.
No,
mentor.
No, if we do it correct, I think Trump will realize that Malaysia as the ASEAN chairman, we have the power to show that, hey, Trump, look at us. But right now we haven't used that. because as a chairman of ASEAN, we can bring ASEAN whether it's closer to China or closer to US. That will really, menjentik Trump in this case. But again, will he attend ASEAN summit? I don't think so. He will attend. But most probably Marco Rubio will attend. But we need to invite him because Marco, he's so obsessed with Myanmar, the human rights in Myanmar. He's so obsessed with it. So if we want Marco Rubio to attend our ASEAN summit, then invite him under that particular scenario. But the problem is that Datuk Sri Zamri, when PMX put Thaksin as his special advisor, saya pening kepala. Pening kepala similar to when Zahid Amidi changed the 3 portfolio, including you lah, your portfolio. Why I'm pening kepala is that Thaksin is has a cordial relationship with the junta. But Marco Rubio, the Menteri Luar of US, he's so obsessed with the junta, the human rights. So I'm not sure what's the tactic of PMX here right now. By electing Thaksin, Joshua can understand, but not so much for Hun Sen in this case. And also there is a rumor that Sultan Hassanal Bolkiah will be pulled as a special advisor to the ASEAN chairman. That I'm not sure. I'm talking about this, I'm not a social scientist, okay? Not a Dr. Koo or Prof. No, I'm not. But I can profess that if you use Google Map and Waze in your everyday life, if you want to go to Ipoh, I can send you to Seremban. That's my specialty. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to respond. I think during the Trump 1.0, ASEAN was the abandoned child, basically. Yeah, we were basically abandoned. So now it's a second term, and then the question is really, do we need the United States or the United States need us? But I don't think that is exactly the questions. But as a human rights scholar, I think my fear is really what Trump did during the first term was that he actually attended just one ASEAN summit. He praised, he actually forged the authoritarian partnership, the like-minded one, yeah? So he attended the ASEAN summit in the Philippines with Duterte, and he praised the record of Duterte as well, which is, for me, is a danger when it comes to the ideologies and the ideas. So those are the things that I think we should be very cautious, especially when Malaysia as the ASEAN chair. I know that as we see the world, democracy is declining, but I think Malaysian government should really ask ourselves, are we wanting to be a country that championing some values? At least if we look at ASEAN Charter, when the ASEAN Charter was being formed, we are actually talking about the people-centered. But we have actually failed until today. And I would think that this will be the challenge for Malaysia, that 2025 is a very significant year because this is the end of many documents and we're starting the new documents. If Malaysia really want to craft its middle powermanship, I think this is really the moment to grab these opportunities. I understand the domestic political concerns, but I think regionally this is something that the Malaysian government as the ASEAN chair should really look into it. And there's a lot of talk about ASEAN centrality, but I think what is really becoming the problem within the ASEAN that the Malaysian government should play the role is the internal fragmentations with the ASEAN member states that made us couldn't achieve any concrete solution, especially for the Myanmar crisis. The 5-point consensus, we know it is a very lousy document. Yeah, it is a document that with a few points, but it is not moving anywhere. Yeah, so and the non-interference policy should be there should be a full stop of. It is about non-interference. There's always a flexibility. If you go into the court, you can fight a case that the person is guilty can become non-guilty. Why can't Malaysian government do something with a non-interference policy in today's world that if we really want to become a champion of something, but I do not know what is that something. Yeah, at one point of time, we have a really high hopes on the Malaysian government to be the champions in terms of democracy and human rights in the region. I think this is really the high time for us to look at it again and this will be helping us to actually move forward to at least do something that is really prominent within the world that we live in, which is a very difficult world. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Following upon the last and my panelists, I would say the current disruptions that Trump causing could also be opportunities. I mean, to look at the other side, you know. Obviously, for the next 4 years, with Trump there, we're going to see more disruptions. It's going to be difficult. We have to navigate all of these problems. But however, they do provide, I think the point was raised, important lessons. And the lessons, I think, can be implemented in various ways, right? BRICS is not a bad idea. I think some of you have pointed out. Alternative to the current global order. So that's what we are working towards. We are not going to find a very clear solution, but we are certainly have some instruments, some regional groups, some organizations which can move in that direction. And at the end of the day, I think back to the basic question for us in Southeast Asia, in Indo-Pacific, there doesn't seem to be any alternative to ASEAN. You know, ASEAN is a weak organization. It is poorly institutionalized. The 5-point consensus and all of those things, ASEAN centrality is not robust enough, we know that. So I think to answer the question about where ASEAN should shift, it is clear it has to move in the direction where it will have to increase its robustness in terms of institutions, right? And in terms of collaboration economically as well. See, the problem with ASEAN is, unfortunately, if we trade among ourselves, the maximum we can go is about 25%. So ASEAN has to think beyond that. How do we bring ourselves into a larger, a larger conglomeration of nations? And maybe the BRICS idea is not bad. RCEP is not bad. So we have to move in directions where we have to find a greater number of partners so that the ASEAN formation itself can become a kind of a seed for if not a new global order, at least a new regional order. Let's start there.
Thank you. Terima kasih saya ucapkan kepada ahli panel kita, dan saya berkeyakinan dengan bahawa tuan-tuan dan puan-puan sependapat dengan saya. Perbahasan malam ini sangat syarat dengan ideas, knowledge dan pengetahuan tentang dunia yang berada di hadapan kita, lanjutan daripada pelantikan Trump sebagai Presiden Amerika kali kedua. Dan ini merupakan satu tradisi yang akan kita mulakan, seperti yang saudara dapat lihat bahawa kita mulakan dari knowledge forum ini dengan kita panggil sebagai BN Forum. Jadi saya harap dengan kehadiran tuan-tuan dan puan-puan kita akan memberikan perspektif baru, kerana di hadapan kita ini mempunyai pelbagai cabaran yang perlu kita ketahui. Politik kita sebenarnya bukan hanya politik dalaman. Malaysia yang sekarang ini terbuka kepada dunia, dan dalam dunia yang semakin canggih dengan AI, politik dan sebagainya, ya kita semua berada di tengah-tengah, bukan di dalam negara kita, tapi sebenarnya kita berada di pentas global. Platform kita ada platform global. Sebab itu saya sangat menghargai tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang datang pada hari ini untuk mengetahui sebenarnya. Dan saya nak sebutkan, kita adalah antara forum, saya tak nampak lagi dalam perbahasan di peringkat negara kita membincangkan tentang forum tentang Trump ini, ya. Dan kita memulakan ini di Malaysia. Terima kasih ya komitmen yang ditunjuk. Terima kasih juga saya ucapkan kepada Alina yang begitu committed sekali. Thank you very much for spending your time. I suppose the time in Jakarta now is 9:30, right? Yes. Yeah, you're still awake. Okay, thank you, Alina. and also Dr. Azmi, Professor Ko, and Professor Johan for taking your time to share your thought with us tonight, and also for Adi, coming all the way, and yang lain-lain pun gitu jugalah. Saya ucapkan terima kasih. Dan kita akan meneruskan tradisi ini. The next one saya tengah memikirkan, saya bagi tahu dengan rakan-rakan, ialah the impact of AI, the AI politics. It's a very interesting part. It's not about the rise of deep sick now, but you're going to have the real impact on our daily life and also our political life. The Malaysian politics and the world politics, for that matter, will definitely shift towards a new one. Jadi itu saja saya nak sampaikan. Terima kasih semua ya atas kehadiran. Semoga dia memberi manfaat kepada kita. Mari kita berikan satu tepukan kepada semua ahli-ahli panel kita ini. Terima kasih. Thank you very much for. Terima kasih.
Okay, terima kasih kepada bagi Datuk Seri, dan kita tutuplah majlis kita pada malam ini. Terima kasih dan mohon maaf bagi pihak Rusia jika ada sebarang kekurangan. Jumpa lagi dalam forum yang akan datang. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.